Nick Payton-Walsh on the ground for us in eastern Ukraine. BuzzFeed correspondent Mike Giglio is among a group of journalists detained, threatened, and finally released by pro-Russian militants. Mike is joining us now from Donetsk in the eastern Ukraine. So tell us what happened, Mike. What was it like, and how long were you being held captive?
Thanks, Wolf. Yeah, I was headed down to Slavyansk from Donetsk on Friday with my translator, and we were stopped at a pro-Russia checkpoint and detained for about 30 minutes there while they basically tried to find out what to do with us. And after about 30 minutes, we were greeted by one of the people who was in charge of the area from the pro-Russia side. They decided to abduct us. So I was put in a van with the other journalists, and we were driven to a military headquarters for the separatists about an hour away. And held there for about 2 or 3 hours, and then finally released when they decided that they could trust us, that we weren't spies. And I think, frankly, they got orders from above to let us go.
How were you treated during that 2-hour period when you were blindfolded?
I think the way we were treated really shows the confusion and amateurism of the rebels here. So on the one hand, they were threatening us. They were pretty rough with us. One of my colleagues was punched a couple of times pretty hard while we were blindfolded. But then on the other hand, they were trying to reassure us that everything would be okay. They removed all our possessions, but they told us we'd get them back. And in between threats, they were sort of whispering, "Don't worry, this is going to be fine." And when they finally did make the decision to release us, the tension lifted. And actually, at the end of it, they served us tea and gave us, by way of an apology, a sort of halting explanation for what had happened, which in short was just that they panicked. There was a military operation going on, and they were taking some casualties from the Ukrainian army, and I think they just freaked out, and they reacted on the scene, and finally I think they found some logic and decided to let us go.
So you don't necessarily think there were orders from Russia, from Moscow, to these local pro-Russian separatists, if you will, to go ahead, threaten, intimidate, cajole, get these Western journalists, American journalists in particular, worried?
See, I think that's implied from the propaganda coming out of the Kremlin right now and from the pro-Russian media. Western journalists, and particularly American journalists, are the enemy. They're part of the problem, and there's really rabid anti-Western, anti-American sentiment coming out of Moscow right now and filtering down through the media, which is really the only thing that the separatists are paying attention to right now.
So how worried, Mike, are you?
I was very worried at the time, and I did receive special attention for being an American. And now I think, how worried I am depends on how tense the situation is. So days like today, journalists can travel around pretty freely. And other days when things are really, really reaching a boiling point, I think the emotions could get the better of people. And I think that they're so intensely set against Westerners right now that it becomes very dangerous for us.
Do you have a feeling that the place where you are right now in Ukraine, they may be on the verge of a major civil war?
I've actually been struggling with myself what to call it right now. But I think what I would say is anyone I speak to on either side of this right now calls it a war. It's just, in their minds, that's what this has become. I spoke to a very sensitive and well-connected pro-Russia separatist leader here in Donetsk today, and he has friends on the pro-Kiev side. And I asked him how he feels about people being kidnapped. They've been holding hostages, they've been beating people, maybe even torturing them. And he said, I feel bad about this, but it's war, it's dirty business. And that's pretty much where they're leaving it right now.
Are you going to stay there, or are you going to get out of there?
I'll be here for a while.
Well, be careful over there. Mike Giglio of BuzzFeed, good luck to you. Be careful, as I like to tell all of our own reporters in these dangerous situations. And I know you've been in dangerous situations before. We'll stay in close touch with you. Good luck. Still ahead is Donald Sterling's wife sending a message